right now I'm going to bring on Peter. And Peter joined just in 2019, and he was able to do a 1031 exchange, and from a property that he had in Maryland, and his life started changing from that point. So Peter, thank you so much for coming on and being able to give back to members and share your story. So tell us about it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Joe. Um, it's been great so far. My wife and I joined Lifestyles January 2019. And then shortly after that, we put our single family rental that we had in Maryland up for sale. One of those situations where we just held on to it too long.
Let me ask
So
you a
I've been
question
renting.
about that
Yeah,
rental that you had. Were you making any money on it?
I was.
Okay.
That's why it was
Well,
hard to sell it.
okay. And but were you making money all along the way, or was it just a certain period of time that you started making money on
So I lived in that house for 4 years, and I started renting out the basement shortly after I purchased the home, and then after that, I rented. 4 years later, I rented out the house for 6 years. Um, but I had tenant issues along the way, so there
it?
were
Okay.
periods where I was not making money.
Yeah, but you basically did what's something called house hacking, and that's pretty awesome. That shows that you really are a smart guy.
Yeah. Thanks.
So you got that house. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about Linda.
Sure. I'm a project manager. I work for a small cybersecurity company. My wife, she was a dental hygienist, and she actually got into dental school this year. So we moved from Maryland to Florida so she could go to dental school.
Hmm. And this picture that we have here on the slide, where are you guys at?
We're in Thailand.
Oh, beautiful. So you enjoy hiking, camping, and traveling. That's awesome. Now
Yep.
you just moved to Florida.
Yep.
What what does lifestyles help you guys in this move to Florida, and why did you move to Florida?
We moved primarily for my wife's school. She got into dental school down here in the Bradenton, Sarasota area, a little bit south of Tampa. So that was the primary reason for the move. Lifestyles helped a lot. I mean, just the information we got to sell our home in Maryland, all of the single family transactions as well as the multifamily passive transactions we've done since joining. Uh, that has helped us tremendously with cash flow because now that my wife is in school, she's no longer working, uh, and dental school is extremely expensive.
Oh,
So
I'll bet. I'll bet.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide there, David. All right. So you wanted to join Lifestyles. Why?
So I had that one rental in Maryland. I always felt like, what? Not felt like I knew I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of like going along with the flow, more or less, just kind of piecing together information along the way. So I was talking to my cousin Philip and his wife Helen, who are members in Dallas, um, and they told us about lifestyles. And Helen, in particular, she spent a lot of time trying to explain, the whole best product, best price, best people thing to me. So yeah, it was definitely because of our family.
Okay. So really, for because of the influence of your family, it really wasn't a scam. You felt there was some integrity behind it, and because they were doing it, you felt like you trusted.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was like 90% of the way there. I just needed like David to not say anything that was like a pyramid scheme like or anything like that.
Okay. Now
And yeah.
you had this property, you had this it was a condo, right? In Maryland,
It was a townhome.
your townhome, and then you
Yeah.
did the 1031 exchange. And then this is your third property that we're looking at here. Some of the pictures here, it's called Buckskin Lane. But
Yeah.
with your 1031 exchange, what was powerful about that 1031 exchange that really was important for you guys with moving on to this property right here?
So because I had that property in Maryland for about 10 years and we bought it uh, right after the Great Recession. So uh, we ended up having about 152,000 in equity. So we didn't want to pay any tax on that. So we did like I didn't know what a 1031 was before lifestyles. So the first transaction, first two, we ended up doing 1031 and then delayed financing on the first one.
Oh,
Uh,
delayed
that
financing.
yeah,
Awesome. God, I
yeah.
didn't know that.
You know what
Oh,
I love most about this house, Peter?
What's that?
You have a red door.
I know.
Now
It was super
well,
easy.
well,
I told them to just copy your colors.
he followed your colors, David.
Just so you know, folks, when you come to my seminar, that will make sense, okay? Just remember the front of this house and what it looks like, okay?
Yeah, I want to get to one more point on this 1031 exchange before we really talk about this property because it's really powerful. Because lifestyles isn't only about just buying apartments and buying single family. It's taking all the knowledge that we know about real estate and being able to put it together in the right way to be able to execute and make thousands of dollars, or in your case, save thousands of dollars. So with $150,000, that's a lot of taxes you would have to pay, you would have had to pay to the federal government and other things. And now you said you did a delayed financing, and that's pretty
Yep.
awesome. David's going to cover a lot of those things in the 2 days. So if you want to know more about this, now's the time to sign up and go attend the 2 day with David Fisher. So let's go ahead and talk about Buckskin. This is your third property. You've done a
Yep.
1031 exchange. You've saved thousands of dollars in taxes.
Hmm.
And now you got this third property. This third property, actually, you just bought this year, right?
Yeah, this year.
In the middle of COVID, right?
Yeah, during COVID. Yep.
Okay, so tell us about that decision.
Sure. So this actually got delayed primarily because the seller had a lien on the property, so he had to get that cleared up. Um, uh, so, anyways, we ended up closing in March. We were supposed to close in January, so that got delayed. And then during that process, we actually ended up in hard money an extra month longer than we wanted to be, and that was because of my wife's employment. Her office was shut down because of COVID, so the conventional lender, or they wanted to see some current pay stubs, so we had to wait for her office to reopen. But other than that, everything was fine. Didn't really
So
seem
that was
to
the
really
only
stop us.
hiccup because of COVID, right? And how you
Exactly.
got through
Yep.
COVID. Now, here's the numbers on this property, and we're going to put these numbers with the other numbers from what we just talked about in your 1031 exchange, and we're going to talk about
Yep.
how that's changed your life. So
Okay.
you purchased this for $87,000.
Hmm.
Equity before the rehab and closing costs is 83,000. It's a large rehab. Uh,
Yep.
and then you had the closing costs. You had two closing costs, and then you have a net equity with a 60% net equity of $18,000, and that's 60%. That is just you can't do better than that in any bank or any CD or any even in the stocks currently. Now your cash out of pocket was 29,000. Your rent is $15,000 a month. That's pretty good, and that's pretty awesome. And then your cash flow is 317 for a 12.7% return. Now, David Fisher teaches us that you want to make anywhere from 8 to how much, David? 8 to 20%. Is that correct?
8 to 30%.
8 to 30%. And so
He,
you're within those numbers.
he's in the pee in your pants deciding range, so he's
Yeah,
okay.
he's in the pants. There's a lot of equity in there. So tell us about the numbers. What do you like about it, and how this rehab went?
Yeah. So the rehab took about 2 months. It ended up going all right compared to the first two and just other projects. In terms of the numbers, the primary reason we did this deal was a mix of cash flow. We are in a couple other multifamily passive deals, but the cash flow from single family is what we needed to help us during this period where my wife is in school.
Mhm.
So having those few single family definitely helps us quite a bit. And then from the equity portion, eventually we would like to do an IRO, hopefully sooner rather than later now that we live in Florida. So
All right, awesome.
yeah, so the equity definitely helps with that.
So I forgot to mention one very important fact to our audience here. Peter did all of this. He did the first three properties. He got into two passive investment apartment deals, all while living in Maryland. And where
Mhm.
are your single family properties at, Peter?
They're all in Texas, two in San
Yep.
Antonio, one in Fort Worth.
So David has David will mention this. All of our presenters will mention this. Live where you want, invest where it makes sense, right? and you thought it made much more sense. Now I know with talking with you now that you're in Florida, you're going to look at some of the areas in Florida as well too, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, we got other members out there investing. So let's go on
Yeah.
to the next slide
So for
and
folks
talk
out there
about
listening nationwide right now, if you're from out of state and you're scared about across state lines, now's your time to ask a member that's actually done it. Peter's actually done that, making great rates of returns doing that.
yeah, and remember he did a $50,000 rehab while he was still in Maryland. That's that's kind of scary if you talk to
Hey,
the average person.
I I flew all the way out to Maryland to meet Peter. You know that.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, that's right. You were the one who did the 2 day for, and Peter joined up in there. That right, Peter?
Yep,
Was that?
yep, that's
I
right.
remember that. Yeah, we got the picture to prove it, standing with David doing the deuces. All right, who's on your team?
So you, of course, Joe, my mentor. Casey Klaus was the lifestyles agent. And then Chris Trimble was my leasing agent, also with Lifestyles Realty. And then I used Longhorn for hard money, KBS for conventional, Spearhead for insurance, and then Hook and Ladder for home inspection.
Awesome, awesome. Let's go to the next slide, and we'll talk about your how lifestyles has changed your life. Let go down each one of these points. We've covered the 1031 exchange.
Sure.
You got two properties in Texas. And where are they in Texas, by the way? I want to ask you that question so people can really understand how you're doing this remotely.
He
Sure.
said
So
Dallas, San Antonio.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
So
paying
the first one, the first one was in San Antonio. So I for that one, I was trying to use up all of 1031 in one transaction just to make it easier on myself. So I tried to do a cash offer with that one, but we're not going to overpay either, right? So it ended up the seller ended up accepting a lower offer, so I had about 7 grand left. So that first one was the delayed financing deal.
Awesome.
Yeah, with the second one, we had about 7 grand left, so we put that plus some additional cash into my house in Fort Worth. And
Right.
then the third one was the one we did this year. So
Now with
total is
those three
963.
single family, go on. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah. So with those three, the total is 963 a month cash flow. And then we have 2 multifamily passive deals that cash flow about 750 a month between the two of them. So we're getting about 1713 a month right now. So that covers. So we just bought a new home in Florida that's going to be done next year. So the new mortgage is going to get covered by our cash flow from real estate. So that's pretty exciting.
So in just less than 2 years, with investing both passively in apartments as a preferred member and doing single family, you have created $1,700 a month cash flow. That is phenomenal. That is pee in your pants exciting. And two multifamily deals, and when you break it down to a monthly average $750 a month, that's phenomenal. That is really phenomenal. Now, uh, tell us about your move to Florida, because I know that there was a little bit of a challenge there with your wife no longer working, but there's some pluses to that, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So the cost of living in Florida compared to Maryland is a huge plus. We, we both became official residents as quickly as we could, and yeah,
No tax,
so
no income tax, no
I
state
know,
income
right?
tax.
Yeah, and something that's exciting for me, related to real estate is I feel like I can finally afford things around me.
And you
So
didn't
yeah,
move to the villages, did you? The villages.
no, no.
Never mind, Joe. You don't even know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about. If you're talking about Disney World, that's out of my league because that's too high for me, David. All right, here's your goals. Tell us, Peter, what are they?
So by the end of this year, we're trying to get at least a couple more single family homes, or perhaps a small IRO, depending on what I can find around me. So
All right.
we just got settled. We moved about 2 months ago, so we just started looking again.
Awesome, awesome.
Yep.
So the world's your oyster now, right? Because now you can think outside of the box.
So
Now we got some questions there, and Danielle's come on to ask some of those questions from our members.
Certainly, yeah, we have quite a few questions here, so I'm going to pick some of the most.
Yeah, try to about 3 or 4 would be good.
Yeah. Okay, so the first one that I have is actually I have 2 people that kind of asked a very similar question. Chase asked, "Did you ever go to Texas while you were out of state making these purchases?" And another person asked, "Did you fly to Texas or did you have somebody help you do the due diligence on the property?"
No, so I've never looked at any of my properties in Texas. And I don't plan on it.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
He's doing it right.
So just so folks listening, he worked with a lifestyles realtor, so that was his boots on the ground. If you work with
Yeah.
Casey, I believe it was, whatever. He had boots on the ground. He had a team build up. He had the vendors build up. So, and we'll teach you that in the seminar, how to do all that. So it's not a problem across state lines.
Good
He's just a
question,
good
brother.
student.
I have a question from Chase, and he asked, "What level of membership did you originally join at?"
So I originally joined as.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I originally joined as a preferred member.
And I wanted to clarify on that. Everybody has to join as a financial freedom member. That's how you base education, and that's how you go to the seminar. But I agree. I think this person was asking after that step, where did you go? So.
Mhm. Yeah, now Peter, the reason why Peter, I believe you joined preferred was because you didn't think you had enough time to do any of this stuff, right? And you were just going to invest passively, is that correct?
Yeah, I was planning on just investing passively. And then we kind of sat down and looked at our different options, learned more about like 1031s and all that. So
And
decided to go a different route.
And just for the folks listening to clarify for you, because we do have different levels of membership, and people go, well, what's this one or this one? I'll clarify all that in the seminar, but just so you know, if you come to my seminar this weekend, I'm going to show you step by step, every step of the way to go out there and be able to buy single family on your own. I can literally show you how to find a deal, screen your residence. You'll get all that knowledge. These other programs are for people that want to go faster and they want a mentor to hold their hand through the deal. So that's what the other memberships are for. But we do teach you all the basics to do it on your own, just so you know. Okay, I want to make sure
you can do it on your own, yes.
And the
All right,
last
Daniel.
I actually have 2 people that asked the same exact question. So you noted that you're in a couple of multifamily deals. They wanted to know, how much did you invest in those?
So the first one I did 50, the second was 100,000.
And were they in Texas as well? Where do you invest, Peter? You don't have to say who the lead was, but just where, what states or whatever, what cities?
Sure. The first one was in Tennessee. The second one was in the Dallas area.
Awesome.
Okay, so you figured in Tennessee people play banjos, so that was good reason.
Yeah, pretty much.
Awesome. So it's like we've been saying all night, invest where it makes sense. And that's what Peter's is. Thank you so much for giving back, Peter. I really appreciate your time. You're a motivated for people, and I really enjoyed hearing from you. And thank you, Joe, as well.
Before we let Peter go, Peter, you're an ambassador, aren't you? Are you still an ambassador? Or are you
Yes.
ambassador? Okay. So David's going to talk about this in the 2-day if you attend it. We have people like Peter who volunteer their time to organize member meetups, and Peter's been awesome at not only member meetups in the Maryland area, but he organized member meetups virtually before COVID with Michigan, Maryland, and was it Virginia?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Peter,
basically the Northeast. Yep.
yeah, you've given back those as an ambassador. You've given back in being able to set up and organize those things. And we just want to thank you for being able to give back in your case study, your first case study. We're going to look forward to when you be able to have that IRO. So thank you so much, Peter. Tell your wife,
Right,
Linda,
thanks,
we said
guys.
hi.
Appreciate it.